So my name is Brita Rosenheim. I'm a partner at Better Food Ventures. We invest in early stage food tech and ag tech companies. And I'm really excited to talk with these two about the future of delivery. There's a lot of different things that we could talk with them about, but we're going to focus on delivery. I think it's fair to say that the convenience economy is here, for better or worse. We've had a couple of bumps along the way, a couple of deaths in startup land, but we really, it's led the path to where we are now, where there really is last mile delivery. It's not a zero-sum game. There are a lot of different ways to get into the end consumer, into their house. And I think the focus today, I'd love to kind of focus on a lot of the ways that you guys are using technology to make business decisions, to better serve your customers, and to get better insights. I think it's helpful for everybody in the audience who's working on these same problems to learn from your mistakes and from what you're seeing is working. So, David, I'd love to start with you. The meal kit and the prepared meal category has had its fair share of criticism. But it's also in a unique position to kind of disintermediate, traditional supply chain, and it's been tough, So, I think I'd love to hear, how you guys are using technology that positions you to be able to use technology in a way that traditional, retailers, manufacturers, suppliers, distributors aren't able to do in a way that's efficient and the margins work.
Sure. So I'd say two things. First, specific to our business, we're able to use predictive analytics to figure out how much food people are ordering. So our food waste is almost negligible, which is one of the biggest issues with food retailers. And then the second one is we've got a full end-to-end loop of feedback. So someone orders food, we actually know when they cook it and how they feel about it. And so we're able to use that constant feedback loop to improve the product, drive better ordering behavior, things of that nature.
And so, we had Tom yesterday from Tyson Ventures say, even Tyson has a hard time, figuring out the supply chain for meal kits. What do you think that you guys have figured out? Is it because it's not on demand and, you're able to, plan ahead? What is the piece that you guys have figured out that kind of other uncooked food delivery systems have had a hard time with?
Yeah, I think the on-demand would be a completely different beast. So we don't actually deliver our product. We're generally taking orders before we're producing anything, for the most part, not entirely. And so that allows us a lot more room for error, I would say. And I would, overall, I think one of the bigger challenges with meal kits is not just the supply chain, but retention and churn and lifetime value. And our product solves that. It's a lot better in that vein.
Got it. And Chris, you aren't dealing with the supply chain per se, but you have a complex, three-sided marketplace. You have the merchants, you have the end consumer, you have your dashers. I'd love to, despite that, you primarily focus as a merchant-first platform. And so that's the lens with how you identify yourself. I think if you go to any kind of restaurant conferences or restaurant tech conferences, you hear a lot of the restaurant operators, feeling frustrated and confused and overwhelmed with all of the solutions. They feel their margins are being taken away. You feel, I think yesterday, if you guys were here in the afternoon, the audience was asked for any restaurateurs in the audience if they delivered, and the ones that didn't, they said, well, you probably do. People just put your menu up online and, they deliver them otherwise. So, I think restaurants are feeling a little bit beat up, but with the lens of being a merchant partner, I'd love to hear how you guys are using technology and scale to, help restaurants and, merchants broadly create efficiencies, understand their business better, and, how you see themselves as a partner using technology that they don't have access to.
Great. Well, DoorDash's origin was like 5 years ago, and so we started in Silicon Valley on Stanford's campus, and Tony, our founder, basically went around and talked to merchants up University Avenue in Palo Alto and was asking them what they needed help with. So that was the origin of the company. He found a lot of merchants needed help delivering catering orders. That was the first thing. They were turning away business. And so he then drove for FedEx. He drove for Domino's Pizza. And sort of came to the conclusion that there really wasn't an ideal sort of on-demand last mile logistics platform, and so decided at that moment that we were going to build that, and that's been the journey for the last five years. We started with the merchant in mind, and it's served us well because ultimately the merchant is that's what the customer wants, right? They want Cheesecake Factory, which we're exclusive with. They want P.F. Chang's, right? They don't want DoorDash. They want the sushi restaurant that's her favorite. They want Wild Ginger down the street, which I love. That's what they want. And so in order to do that, if you add delivery into the system, you have to make it smooth for the merchant operations, or it will not work. When we first started, we were probably 1%, 2%, 3% of sales for those restaurants on University Avenue. Now, if you take a walk with me down University Avenue at lunchtime or dinner on Friday night, DoorDash probably represents 30 to 50% of the sales. And so you can imagine how delighted those merchants are. And that's sort of the end state. We've launched a lot of markets across the United States, but now it's become a huge part of their business, and it's incremental. It's breaking the restaurant, if you will. And so we need to work together to make sure that goes well. Technology plays an instrumental role in doing that. I'm sure you've talked a lot about point-of-sale systems at this conference. We spend a lot of our time integrating with point-of-sale systems, making sure the information is correct, that it goes into the back of the house as well as the front of the house, so the order we customize the operations when the dasher, which is what we call the drivers, go into the store so that they can know exactly where to go to minimize the amount of time in the store. So we communicate that in the application. In some cases, we notify the restaurant that the dasher is approaching the restaurant so that they can assemble the food. So it's an interesting ballet between technology and operations that make it go very, very smooth.
And in terms of understanding their own customer, I think that's another tension that merchants in general, restaurants in particular, feel that they're losing with third-party operators, who are delivering or ordering their food. What types of insights, or how do you approach kind of the harmony of sharing data with your merchant partners and helping them have insights about what their customer base is?
Yeah, the most demanding merchants that we work with are national partners. So DoorDash is partnered with of the top 100 restaurants, we're partnered with 90% of them that do delivery. That's 5X, our leading competitor. This is one of the hot button issues. It's like, so how do you help me drive my business? Two examples that I'll highlight. So a lot of the restaurants were never built with delivery in mind, right? Pizza was built with that in mind, but a typical restaurant is not geared towards that. And so they have to customize their operations, particularly as you start to get to 10, 20, 30% of sales. Well, we work very closely in concert with the merchants to provide the data. So for example, it might be okay that the desserts are in one area and the beverages are in another area and the food comes out in another area in the store. Yeah. But that doesn't work very well from a delivery point of view, because if you want that dessert, you want that beverage, you want it all assembled together. How do we work together to figure out what's not going right operationally? The data will tell you, you're missing the desserts 50% of the time, and they're just not getting caught. So how do we work together to make that, possible? Incremental business opportunities is also something that we work on. Often we're in an area, and so the way to think about DoorDash is we operate in 3-mile radii across the entire country, which is kind of cool. It also makes it very complicated, right? But over time, we can see what sells in people that like this type of food, also like these other types of food. And so we'll know, for example, that there's certain things missing in a particular geography. And we can help. We haven't disclosed the name of the merchant yet, but someone just added chicken nuggets to their menu because it was a category that was missing in a particular geography. Very, very exciting. Another thing I'll highlight on the tech side and data side is we're beginning to show, like one merchant asked us, are these sales really incremental? Is DoorDash really driving incremental business? And so we did a little map by time of day about where these orders were coming from. And it was a 3-mile away office park that was ordering 100 orders at lunchtime. It was like, there's no way people are going down there and driving over to your store and coming back. Well, it turns out they also use that to open up another physical presence, right? They're like, I should be closer to them so I can get that business by putting a physical plant there. I didn't have to take the risk. I know the demand is there in advance. So I think we're just scratching the surface in terms of how data will impact this business.
So on that front, we're all inundated with data, at least the technology companies in this space. I think there's a lot of analog companies in the food sector as well that are struggling to capture data. I think you guys are probably very data rich. How are you sorting through the noise in terms of driving daily, weekly product decisions or business decisions? David, I think it's been wonderful to see kind of the evolution over the last couple of years. Every year that I see you, you have more insights and have made different decisions in terms of kind of where the product is going forward and what makes sense to take a bet on in terms of product features. I'd love an example of kind of what are kind of the KPIs that you're looking at on a regular basis in terms of data that help you make decisions about kind of what the next step is, and would also love areas that data steered you wrong. If you had a good anecdote of look, all the data says this is what we should do, and food is very personal, and so I think as we're dealing with kind of food choices and kind of personal decisions, sometimes the data doesn't lead us in the right direction. So if you have a good anecdote on that, I'd love to hear it.
Sure. So we've gotten a lot better about this over time, and we pull data from multiple different sources. So every time someone buys our product, they get hit with a 3-question survey. We do regular surveys of all of our customers in an automated fashion, so each customer gets surveyed every 90 days, and we can track their satisfaction over time. We do qualitative interviews on a regular basis, and then we track everything people do on the app anytime they touch the oven, and then obviously all of their ordering behavior. So it's a lot of different data inputs that we need to kind of make sense of on a weekly basis. And we have a team that essentially distills everything we learn on a weekly basis and shares that out. And sometimes that drives insights, sometimes it's just interesting information. To your question about like specific data that has led us astray, it's an interesting question. I would say that we had a hypothesis because our product for a lot of people is expensive. So we launched at $3.99 and the meals are $12 a pop. We assumed that, and it's fairly behavior changing, so you need to find space on your counter for it. You need to replace whatever you're currently doing for dinner with this new dinner solution, because it's not just an oven, but it's a meal service. So we had this hypothesis from having talked to some people and just assumed that it was a long purchase cycle. So someone would hear about it, but they would need a series of touch points from the first time they heard about us to talking to someone that owned the product, to seeing press, to getting hit with an ad. And then we started asking people after they purchased, when did they first hear about us? And we realized we were wrong. And 60% of our customers buy the product within 0 to 3 days of hearing about us. And so all of a sudden that drove a whole bunch of changes in how we think about our marketing and how often we're targeting people within a short span. And it was a very unique insight that actually drove a huge growth in sales for us.
That's tremendous. So this is a pull the trigger type of decision versus a kind of long-term buying an oven or a refrigerator type of decision.
For some, right? It's like there's basically 2 categories. There are the people that take their time and need a lot of hand-holding and a lot of third-party reinforcement that the product is good. And then there's a bunch that are in such dire pain and they really struggle with dinner on weeknights and the current solution just doesn't do it for them. They see it, they learn about it, they buy it immediately.
On that, I'm just thinking of, as the generations are getting older, a lot of times people are thinking about how to take care of their grandparents. Are you seeing this as a purchase do you have an understanding of the demographics of who your customers are, and how much is that driving purchases in terms of decisions for parents or grandparents?
Yeah, so we always said that we thought the product would work for a wide range of demographics, but that initially we assumed the customers would be young working professionals, couples that work a lot, make a lot of money, are super busy. we were wrong about that too. Our customers do span a huge demographic range, and it's made our job, particularly the marketing team, really hard because they can't target 32-year-olds that live in New York City, make over 150K, because we have 65-year-old empty nester factory shift workers in Mississippi that use our product.
Wow.
And so the reality is it's a similarity of attitudes and psychographic beliefs that unite all of these people. And it's a lot of people that rely on takeout and frozen food and are unhappy with that. And so it's about targeting the psychographics and the groups that these people are a part of more so than the demographics.
Got it. Chris, you've been with the company for 3 years, so I think the company has kind of ebbed and flowed on while the core strategy has remained the same. We've seen a lot of evolution in terms of business models, in terms of approaches. Kind of same question in terms of how you in your daily job are using data. What are you waking up in the morning looking at? What is an alarm to you? And is there a premise that you had maybe 18 months ago that that is no longer the case?
Yeah, I would say our top priority is quality of the delivery. The people are hungry with our system, right? So they're ordering food at the moment they're hungry and they want the food 30 minutes later. And if you don't do that well, they're mad. And so we obsess over the quality of that delivery. How quickly are we able to get it to the consumer? Because if you don't get it there quickly, it's a highly perishable item, right? It goes cold, or if it's ice cream, it melts in the summer. And so you have to get it there very, very quickly. The number one thing we try to do is make sure that there's enough Dashers in the right location. And this is one of the things that's really hard about DoorDash, is that we don't actually know how much demand is going to be in a particular location at a moment in time. That's sort of the hard problem. We have historicals and last week and what happened, but there's a lot of variables that can impact that. So, for example, if it starts to rain or snow, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. And if it snows just a little bit, rains just a little bit, threat of rain is the best. The demand goes up, people stay home, we can get drivers on the road. A horrific rainstorm or snowstorm is challenging because the drivers don't necessarily want to go on the road either. And so we're always using data to help try to make the system better every single time. What would I highlight that I think I'd highlight a caution. I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs and so I've worked in a lot of tech companies. I was at Microsoft, I was at Amazon and eBay. And a lot of times we approach problems with, we've got this technological hammer, our AI models and machine learning, we got this hammer. And what we found at DoorDash is that when we sort of have the wizards, go into the back room and come up with the machine learn model in isolation, that does not work as well for this type of space, which is intensely operational. Yeah. So what we found the best success with is to actually go in and study the problem operationally, like literally look at a good example might be, merchants are taking too long to prepare the food, or we're not getting that right. So you could go build based on all your data, you could go build a machine learn model to figure out, I'm going to accurately predict how long it's going to take each merchant by time of that. You could go do that. But you might be better off watching in the store and seeing that there are things that are causing problems operationally. It's different shifts that are causing problems because they're not trained adequately in the store. Maybe we need to have the merchant give us a signal that they need 15 more minutes to prepare the food. Maybe that's better than using the advanced technology. Yeah. So we tend to go from micro insight, then scale the technology. And those two things go in concert with one another. If we get too far on one side or the other, it won't scale if we throw people at it. And the technology will not be aimed properly if we don't have the insight correct.
Yeah, I think the food sector in particular has been a victim to, over the last 5 years, let's say, of companies that have, basically technologists who are starting a company, thinking that they can apply kind of other business models that are out of the food system into the food system, and not understanding, as everybody here knows, food is a special beast, and between perishability and you kind of a whole factor of reasons. It's a list of 50 reasons why food is different, and people are working with food are different. Food itself is different. You can't transport it in the same way, and people's preferences are different. So, in terms of, kind of success in this, in the category, in terms of direct-to-consumer, delivery in different versions, scale is really important to getting, ultimately kind of taking a step back and making sure that the business works. So how are you guys thinking about partnerships and kind of growth? Are you leveraging, other players within the space, whether obviously on the customer side, but, as, a lot of entrepreneurs and other companies are here, it's good to understand, how to work together. So how are you thinking about working together with other people in the industry, and how do you see that, supporting growth or not? David?
Yeah, so, I think that's evolved over time as we've matured as a business, and we're still very young. We're about 50 people. We raised our Series A at the end of last year, so much smaller than DoorDash. And core to our value proposition now and when we started, and I think for a long time moving forward, is that we are fully vertically integrated. So we build our own hardware, we build our own software, we have our own kitchens, we have our own chefs, we make the food for our product, and that's why it works really well. And that's not something we want to give up, because that is a core competency of ours, and it's really our biggest differentiator. And specifically to partnerships, I do think there are partnerships that can unlock a lot of growth for us and open up new experiences for our customers, get us more distribution. And we're just now kind of starting to have conversations that are real and will lead to tangible things. Whereas I'd say 2 years ago, we were having these conversations because a lot of larger companies are interested in working with startups, but we were too small to actually do anything. And it ended up being, largely a waste of our time. But now we're at a scale where it does make sense to have, certain partnerships be part of our medium and longer term strategy.
Are you able to talk about any concepts there, or that'll be next year?
No, that'll be next year.
Okay, all right. Chris?
Yeah, the thing I'd highlight here is, so if you've used DoorDash before, right, you can go to DoorDash or use our app and order your food and it comes to you. But the way we also think about DoorDash is there's two parts of it. There's that app that you order food, and then there's a logistics platform behind the scenes. And so we call this DoorDash Drive. We knew when we were building DoorDash that we were trying to build a last mile logistics platform to power what you call the convenience economy. And so we have begun to open up through partnerships, DoorDash Drive, so that third parties can tap into our logistics platform. So I'll give you a few examples of this. So when you download Chipotle's application, and you're using Chipotle's application, behind the scenes, when it comes time to deliver the product, they're calling on the DoorDash platform, right? So that when they make the promise, it says, I can get this to you in 20 minutes. Behind the scenes, DoorDash's system is fulfilling that promise. When you order in parts of the country, Walmart groceries, for example, DoorDash behind the scenes is delivering those groceries. When you order catering from Chipotle, for example, that's being delivered via DoorDash. And so we very much see the on-demand convenience economy is going to be, this enormous trend, right? Consumers are increasingly expecting that they can get what they want immediately. And so we've designed DoorDash with partnerships in mind. We're going to open that up as a platform, and we'll see. Will that be the bigger business in DoorDash in 5 years, or will the marketplace, which is what we call the DoorDash application, will that be bigger? We'll see. I think they'll both be large opportunities because demand will not simply come from one source. The on-demand economy, last mile, is simply too large for that. And that'll be a big part of the next chapter. It's one of the key reasons we've raised close to, $750 million this year. It's been an eventful year for us. And that's one of the key reasons to go beyond restaurant delivery into other categories like grocery, catering, and others.
So I have one other question, but are we supposed to go to the Slido app? I don't know. Did you guys put any questions in? Raise your hand if you did. Should I be looking for it? Okay. If you guys have the Slido app back there, do you hear us? Do you want to holler out a question?
My question was just about the age demographic. What are you guys seeing? Is it millennials that are using the apps? Is it ordering food, or is it older generations, right? Like Gen X, and boomers for that
Yeah, so the question was just getting kind of better clarity on where the trends are in terms of demographics of kind of where the critical mass is.
Yeah, so for us, it's actually a huge spread. We have customers as young as 24, and kind of to what Brita alluded to, we have empty nesters in their 70s and 80s. So it is a widespread demographically of people using our product.
We're seeing the same thing at DoorDash. It ranges from the very young to the older. And one of the things we do at DoorDash that helps bring that into focus is we all dash every month. All the employees have to dash every month. And I learned so much from dashing. And one of the things you learn is the type of customer that you have. So one time, I'll give you a quick story. I got an order for a $5 pizza. And I thought, my God, why am I delivering a $5 pizza? So I go up, and I'm winding through the hills of Northern California, and I'm at this mansion with my $5 pizza. And, I knock on the door, and I said, DoorDash is here, and I delivered the pizza. And there was a 5-year-old little girl, and that was her pizza. And you could hear the dinner party going on in the background. That's what she wanted. She didn't want anything to do with the food that was happening in the back room. And you see that time and again. This is a family product. It's a young person's product. My daughter at San Diego State University sends me feedback, her friends, all the way up to her grandparents that are ordering on DoorDash. The convenience economy is not isolated to one pocket or demographic.
The 5-year-olds are the next target demographic for you guys. All right, I think we're out of time. Thank you very much. This was a great conversation, and look forward to continuing it.
Thank you.